I saw this video and I was having a kind of anxious day, so I thought that I would watch this one.
What's going on, guys? My name is Noah. Today I want to talk about obsessive thinking, rumination, race brain, spinning,
Yeah.
anxiety, and everything that comes with looping thoughts, feelings, and ideas over and over again with no sense of completion, no sense of
This is something that I was really suffering with today. I saw a comment earlier that was talking about how Americans are so coddled nowadays and how we've come up with all these buzzwords like trauma and all of those things to sort of make excuses for ourselves or to do this kind of thing that's basically removing the blame from us so that we don't have to feel bad about things. And I thought that was so comical, the idea that by knowing more about yourself or knowing more in general, that somehow that is making excuses, that you're not being tough enough, that you're not being self-sufficient enough, that you're trying to get away from your own responsibilities in that way. And I always think about, I once I heard someone tell me that they had a conversation with someone who was a Christian, and the Christian said, you know, I don't learn anything about science, man, because that's all lies and nonsense. And I often think that's hilarious. Your knowledge of how things work does not change how things work. They're working that way anyway, so you might as well know about them. And the idea that trauma, that things that have happened to you in the past that are really big and effective don't exist, that they don't play any kind of role in the people that we become one day. And if you think that that's not true, then I would challenge you to think of how easy it is for you to be anything else except for what you are, to consider the fact that everything that you do comes from a similar person, and you didn't really choose who that person was. Now, you might control that person to a degree, but that person is still there, and you're that person. And that wasn't something that you made. It's a thing that the experiences that you've had over your lifetime has made. And by understanding that, you actually get a better grip on what's going on. And I know that people hear me talking about this kind of stuff and they think, oh, this is just that wishy-washy bullshit. But it's so much more than that. It's the power of knowing what's going on, and the more you know, the more you can do. The more you learn, the more you earn, baby.
resolution.
Warren Buffett.
And just the torture that can come with that. It's something that has been pretty consistent and plaguing, I don't think that's a word, but it has plagued me. The cycle of rumination, pure obsession, OCD, stuff like that. And I'm working with someone right now.
And so rumination is when you have a thought and then you keep dwelling on that thought over a long period of time. And nothing is being solved by you dwelling on it, but you're sort of trapped in this cage with that thought, and you just can't get away from it.
Who is really struggling with that. It's a very common thing to struggle with. A deep inner connection to your every thought, wanting to find meaning behind it, wanting to understand why you're thinking and feeling a certain way.
And this is a really interesting thing that happens to people, because your thoughts are not you. And that's something that some people have a really easy time understanding and other people have a really hard time understanding. The thoughts that pop up in your brain are a reaction of a chemical process that is everything from how much sunlight you've had and how much water you've drank, all the way to the interactions that you're having with other people. And so the things that come up in your brain are not your doing. They are a collection of fallen dominoes, and then they hit this they fall and they move these pathways, and wherever that pathway leads to is where those dominoes land. And you can sort of choose which dominoes get knocked down whenever you reach a branch in that sometimes, but you're still going to inevitably end up somewhere that you didn't plan on ending up.
Wishing you weren't thinking or feeling certain things, judging yourself, punishing yourself, and it is maddening, you guys. It is absolutely maddening to be in that space. I've had obsessive cycles and ruminations hold on to me for months and months and months, where every waking moment of every single day, I was stuck in the same loop. And something.
This is the reason that I initially tried to quit music, because music is very punishing for me. Back in the day, I was in a band that it wasn't big by any stretch of the imagination, but for someone like me who came from a place that's very small and no one ever really paid attention to me, you know, our album release show had 80 some kids there, and you know, we could pull a pretty decent crowd, and we played some decent sized festivals and got to do some really interesting stuff. And picking up a guitar for me became painful a lot of times, because the way that creativity works is that I'm not an extremely talented person. Sometimes it goes really well, and sometimes it doesn't go as well. And when it wouldn't go well, I would really, really beat on myself. You know, I going into a studio as an 18-year-old kid and recording these songs, and then having to get in front of a microphone with headphones on and hear myself sing for the first time, and have other people hear me sing under an extreme microscope, and have someone who's older than me and knows better than me tell me over and over again that I'm doing something wrong, made me become extremely judgmental, made me have feelings of self-doubt and that I wasn't good enough. And I still carry some of those things with me now. So I eventually quit music because it was ruining me as a person. I wasn't emotionally equipped to deal with and handle that, and I had to move away from it. But then music would not let me go, and so here I am again. Still, sometimes I pick up guitar and I'm really disappointed in what I can do. I push a song to the point that I get as far as I can with the skills that I have. Sometimes I make it all the way to the vocals. Sometimes I complete an entire song and I go, wow, I didn't have a single place there where I felt like I was incapable of doing this thing. But sometimes I'll get to the vocals on a song and I'll try to record them, and I just don't sound the way that I thought I was going to sound in my head. And it really beats you down, because you can't just change that overnight. You can't just become a better version tomorrow. It's oh my gosh, there's this thing that I apparently haven't practiced enough, and now I'm going to have to spend months of my life trying to get better in this kind of way and build this new skill that I didn't even realize was there for me to build on, and that can be really difficult for someone like me.
Thing I used to do,
maybe someone like you,
is just feel this dire need to, one, seek validation, reassurance, and guidance from everyone and anyone.
And that's why I don't release music anymore, because I don't want to be doing it for other people. I don't want to be seeking validation. I'm not seeking validation. I'm doing this because I think I'm good at this. I enjoy putting it out. I enjoy seeing the comments and the reactions. I am completely removed from it, just so you know. Whenever people say negative things about me, it doesn't make me feel any kind of way, because I don't really care what you think. You don't know me. And it doesn't bother me. And then also when people say really positive things about me, I think, yeah, I mean, you don't know me though. You don't know that I'm going to be really successful at this. You don't know that I'm a great person. You don't know that I'm really intelligent. You just are seeing this image of me. And so I've removed myself from it. I have all the validation I need inside. So I feel free to do this now.
And two, I would research my issues. I would research my thoughts. I'd research whatever I was cycling on, ruminating on, freaking out about, for lack of better words.
I'm really into the psychological stuff lately.
No end. On Google, for example, I just had to know if it was normal. I had to know if I was going crazy. I had to know if
Have you ever done that? Have you ever tried to Google what's going on in your brain and just try to find a Reddit post where people have talked about it? One time I was having a panic attack because I thought my heart was racing in some kind of weird way, and I found this extremely long post from this guy that was really enthralling and engaging about, you know, this time in his life where he had all these heart issues, or he thought he was having all these heart palpitations, and he would sit there and he would just wait for his heart to start beating again. And he was and by the time I got to the end of it, the last stanza was just something along the lines of, and at this point, you've probably forgotten all about the thing that you were worried about before. And I just smiled to myself and thought, man, what a pure act of kindness that person just did for me. And they have no idea. And I just appreciate it so much.
I don't know, I had to know. I'm just obsessed. So I want to share with you guys the biggest key to getting me free of obsessive thinking and rumination. The single greatest, most relieving thing that ever happened to me that changed everything. It's an absolute game changer. And it's simple, and I want you to take it to heart because it's powerful. And this is someone who's done this for years and years, and trust me, if anyone knows the insidious nature of obsessive loops and ruminations,
Totally.
it is moi, okay?
Totally. We read Turtles all the way down by John Green.
Quite frankly, because you just need to stop. The moment I fully, here it is, the moment I fully internalized and completely accepted and believed that I could not control what I was thinking at all.
Yeah.
Zero control over my thoughts, that it was completely random and had no reflection on me.
Yeah.
Did not define me. They were just thoughts. It never was as bad. To the point that all of these things I was trying not to think suddenly just fizzled off in the background, because I realized with all certainty there wasn't any of my business what I was thinking.
And this is something that I've tried to get through the heads of a lot of people, because it's something that's really helped me, and I see a lot of people struggling with it as well. Because a lot of people get stuck in this loop of they think these things, or they behave in a certain way, or they have a moment where they do something to somebody or whatever, and then they beat themselves up really hard over it, and they go, well, I'm just a piece of shit, I guess. I just can't do anything right. I'm a bad person. This is how it's always going to be. But you don't even think about the fact that that was just a moment in your life. And the majority of your time is spent being a decent person and doing the things that you're supposed to do and helping out your loved ones and being fun to be around and enjoyable. And these moments that you have are such a fraction of your entire life. And the second that you start to realize that it's about what you do with what you have, that's the thing that shows your true value. When you go online and write out that mean comment, it doesn't matter if you're smarter than the person that you're commenting against. It doesn't matter if you present it in a way that is rude and obtuse and asshole-ish. What happens is that it shows... That's what you've decided to do with those gifts that you have. That's what you've decided to do with your knowledge. That's what you've put together in those moments. And that's such a telling thing about your existence, you know? The people who are out here struggling and having a hard time, and they're doing the best that they can, and most of their life is good, and then they have these moments, that's totally okay. And it's okay to be whatever you are. So you just have to live in that body and be that thing, and you don't need to feel bad about it. But when you sit there and make a choice, when you personally are doing something, and this is the thing, a lot of times when you're writing that mean comment, you're not making that choice. You're just so overtaken by this sort of feeling of, I need to do this. And I've done that. I got into a comment with someone the other day. This is really incredible, on TikTok, where I had made this video talking about how, conservatives are like this, liberals are like this. And someone got on there and they just basically, with very little information about me, decided to start saying that I'm a racist, basically. And I had said nothing race-based whatsoever. And I just started going, wow, dude, smooth brain take, and just kept saying that, and he kept responding over and over and over again. I just kept going, wow, dude, smooth brain take, and just kept baiting him to put more and more comments on there. And I was incapable of stopping myself from doing that, because my brain was just stuck in this loop. So I don't even think that we're always in control of ourselves. But if you've sat down and said, I'm going to say something mean here because I can, well, then that's the thing. And if you're not doing that, if you're not actually being like, I want to hurt people for fun, then I don't think you have anything to worry about, man. You're fine.
It's my business what I do, my reactions.
Yeah, totally.
But I can't control my thoughts. I can't control my thinking. I can't control my feelings. They just are.
Yeah.
They just are. And when I took that power...
And I often ask questions to people of, what do you think I should do with these feelings about this thing? If you don't want me to do this with these feelings, what do you think I should do with them? if they continue and you are bringing them up. And being around you brings them up, and I'm not able to just be away from you. What am I supposed to do?
Hour away from them when I fully, and completely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, internalize the fact that they're separate from me. They're just random, and they have nothing to do with me. I stopped taking it personal. I stopped caring. And eventually I stopped ruminating and obsessing. After sometimes month-long or more.
Let it go. All people really just need to let go.
Or bouts with severe obsession. It just became easier. And same goes with feelings. The moment I stopped putting judgment and requirements and expectations on my feelings and on my thoughts, it was easier just to let them go.
Yeah.
I am responsible for my actions. Absolutely.
Totally. And you have to take responsibility for when you do something bad, you're the person who has to own up to that. And it's difficult and it's painful, and you get out of control and you're not able to do what you wish you would have done in that moment, and then you have to be the one to clean up that mess. That's always true. You don't get to put that blame off on somebody else. You don't get to just remove yourself of that guilt and that blame. And I think that a lot of people who are out here really struggling in life, they're suffering from a condition where they're constantly trying to remove themselves from blame. Well, I'm not bad. This system is bad, and that's making me do this. Yes, but you don't have to participate in that system. If you know that being in really aggressive political debates makes you a terrible person to other human beings, maybe you're just not meant to be in really spirited political debates. That's something you have to learn about yourself and remove yourself from those things.
My actions define me far more than my thoughts. And this sounds so simple, and it's a mindfulness thing, and it took me forever to click with this, because I had people try to bring this up to me and bring this to my attention, and I just couldn't buy into it. It just seemed too hokey, too simple, too woo-woo. But that's it, guys. That's it.
Is he trying to riz me up right now?
The secret to your freedom from your rumination, or at least one of the big secrets to your freedom, your rumination, your loops, your cycles, your pure obsession, is that you can't control your thoughts, so there's no reason to care what you're thinking. No reason at all.
Yeah.
Now, see, the tricky thing about rumination, the tricky thing about pure OCD, anxiety, is we think things and feel things that cause us to question who we are, and that's the magic in the torture. Your brain wants to scare you into thinking that your reality is obscured, or that you aren't who you really think you are. It wants you to question things.
Yeah.
And so these,
well, this is that whole mental illness thing, and I think there's so much mental illness in the world, and a lot of people just denying the fact that there is mental illness doesn't mean that you don't have it. The idea of mental illness is that your brain does something that you don't want it to do, and isn't supposed to be doing that. And a lot of times this comes about because we're living in a world that is so far removed from the world that we initially evolved to live in, that we initially were made to live in. And we're now having to sort of apply all of these structures that we formed for things like lions and tigers and hunting for food and how to stay warm in the wintertime. We're now having to use all of that for things like social media or complex interpersonal relationships or politics at work, or how to have a really deep conversation with somebody. And all of those things are still, you're always trying to scan through these things. And a lot of times, because these systems aren't made for them, you start to get this flap that hangs off the edge. And that flap that hangs off the edge is just looking for something to cover up. And that's a problem.
Latch on to terrible thoughts sometimes. Some of my pure OCD thoughts could be like driving down the road, and suddenly I imagine myself turning the wheel really hard and killing someone, hitting someone with my car. I used to have those thoughts once in a while.
I mean, today I was Instacarting, and I literally said to Tiff, what if when I took the picture of their receipt, instead it was just my hand like this down below my waist when I took the picture? What if I just sent that instead? And, I feel bad for people who really have these kinds of thoughts and don't just find them hilarious that your brain did that thing. But totally, who hasn't driven by a park and said, "That's where I'd bury a body"? I mean, it's just it's you have so much information in the world that of course you're using it. I always think when I first started going to school and I figured out how they gave tests, and it's set up in such a micromanagey kind of way because they're obviously trying to stop you from cheating. And I immediately thought of how to cheat. That was the first. I've never cheated on a test, but I tried to crack that code. How would I cheat on this test? How would I, without them having any idea? And I think, oh well, I have long hair. I would just put like an earpiece in my ear, and I would run a cable out of the back of this computer from the HDMI port into a capture card into another computer that's obscured under the desk. I would be streaming that computer to a private Twitch account. I would have somebody else watching my screen on that Twitch account, Googling every answer, and then just feeding it into my ear. That's what I would do. And it's an intrusive thought, but you know, whatever, man. Don't act on them. Don't do it. Don't kill somebody with your car.
A while, and then I would stress and punish myself and ruminate and freak out for weeks. Why did I think that? What's wrong with me? I'm going crazy. Only a psychopath would do that. No, that's just a random thought in my head, literally designed and propped up by the way my brain works to scare me, freak me out, and cause me pain. Now, when I have those thoughts, I just laugh. I just laugh because it has nothing to do with me. It's not based in my reality. It's just my anxiety and my pure OCD.
It's your goofy imagination, dude.
It's not real. And educating myself helped. Verifying that this is a real thing, this mindfulness thing, and how this works.
And some people do really well without having to educate themselves. It always just irritates me that other people can't just let other people be them, and other people can't let the dissemination of information go out into the world. I'm not trying to build illusions here. I'm trying to tell the truth of my existence. And other people feel that as well, but I don't understand why people feel such a need to try to get other people to conform to what they think.
And the way Pure O works and rumination works, it's a trick. It's a fucking trick. It's not real.
Yeah, totally not.
It doesn't mean you have to like how you feel. Doesn't mean you have to sign on to what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But you certainly can remove yourself from it. You've got no choice. You've got no control. It just is. The moment you really soak that in, guys, it just is. So you can go about your day, go about your life. Think whatever you think. They're just thoughts. You can't control them, so for sure.
Yeah.
It's like watching people walk through a park and sitting on a bench eating some popcorn. There they are. Huh. Well, there they go. It's got nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with you. This is the single greatest.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think that TV shows about horrible things are written? How do you think TV shows where they have a guy who's murdering children and cops are trying to find him and there's all these twists and turns in the storyline? How do you think that's written? Someone thought of all of that. It popped into someone's head, and they're not doing those things. They're just writing about them. I mean, Twin Peaks, that's an insane show with tons and tons of really outlandish, horrific things that happen. But that's not what what's his name? I can't remember his name. I can see his face in my head. It's Friday once again. That's not what he does and behaves as. That's not who he is. That's just what his brain does.
Key to letting go and moving past this. Now,
this stuff actually seems kind of obvious
do it wrong? Do I sometimes still have minor relapses and obsessive thinking? Yeah, earlier in the summer, this past late June, I got stuck in a 2-week cycle of pure OCD. But I knew what was happening, and I worked through it pretty carefully. It was the shortest bout of obsession and rumination I've ever had.
And I used to have a lot of outbursts of extreme emotion, and those become fewer and further between, and I can see them pop up whenever I'm more stressed or doing a lot of things that I don't want to do. But you do start to get a handle on these things as you progress through life, and that's something that I think that a lot of us sort of have not much hope for, where we think that, oh, this is going to be how I am forever, but it's not. You improve over time. It just takes a lot of time. I mean, everyone's had the experience of going to the gym and thinking that in a week and a half they're going to be totally ripped, but it just takes so much time. Change happens incrementally. You've been living one way for a really long time. It takes time to learn to live a different way. You have to live for as long as you lived the other way as this new way for you to be that person.
Am I constantly berated and taken hostage by these things anymore? No, almost never. Because I know what's going on and I don't fight it. I accept it. It's okay. It's completely okay. So I hope that helps. I hope you know this is one of the most important topics ever for me, is the topic of rumination, obsession, paranoia,
Good for you,
spinning
dude.
racing, poor sleep, poor thoughts, stress, anxiety, depression. It's a loop. Just remember, next time you have a shitty thought or a shitty feeling, don't be like, I wish I wasn't thinking this. I wish I didn't feel this way. Let go of expectations. Separate yourself from it. Just be like, oh, there it is. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Nothing. You are not your thoughts. They just are.
It's difficult for me because I'm somebody who vocalizes thoughts. That's sort of why I do this, because I have the gift of gab or whatever. My thoughts, thinking and talking, are the same thing for me. My thoughts are words, and it's a dialogue in my brain, and that dialogue forces its way out of my mouth. And so a lot of times the thoughts that I'm having seep out and then affect other people around me, and that's something that is dangerous in a kind of way, and you have to learn how to deal with that.
And since, here's the magic, since you cannot control them, you cannot control your thoughts. They're going to happen no matter what. The more you try to control, the worse it will be. So since you can't control them, I can't wipe my hands because my hand's holding the phone, but wipe your hands of it. You're done, you're free, you're good. And move on. The less you fight it, the less often they happen, the easier it gets. Work on this.
And this video is from 6 years ago. This is kind of old hat in my opinion. This is the thing that I think is really impressive about community and understanding, and the way that we have all sort of grown as a society together, is that this stuff it becomes so ingrained into us that it becomes obvious, and then we build on top of that obvious thing with new thoughts.
Practice this. Learn about mindfulness. Read up on pure OCD. Educate yourself, and don't feed into it. For me, not feeding into it was not researching. Don't ask for validation everywhere you turn. Maybe here and there with confidants, but in general, no amount of research was ever going to satisfy these obsessive thoughts. It was just an endless loop.
Don't ask strangers if you're good enough, because strangers who don't know you and don't have any reason to be nice to you, you're rolling the dice on how they treat strangers. And a lot of times you just get people who just feel the need to take their aggression out on someone who they don't know. So don't do that thing. Keep it inside of you and learn that you are good enough. Whatever you're making, it's fine. Now, it might not be, if you're a person who's making movies, it might not be a #1 hit at the box office, but it doesn't need to be that. You're on your journey doing your things, and you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to be the next big thing. You don't have to be accepted by a large number of people. That doesn't do anything for you. I know it gives you money and power and clout and all of those things, but that is all just fake. It doesn't matter. Now, that's really easy to say whenever things are comfortable and you don't need money, but the truth is that the money doesn't make you confident, that the money doesn't make you happy. In fact, the happiness and the confidence and the capability and all of those things often come before the money. Chris Nolan did not make the Batman movies so that he could be confident and famous and rich and all that stuff. He made the Batman movies because he was a capable director who could make those movies. And learning those skills comes before you get that thing. And a lot of times you don't even get that thing. A lot of times you realize that you don't need that thing anymore. I stopped pursuing the idea of being a famous musician because I realized that I already had everything that I had ever wanted from being a musician. I have everything in this room right now that allows allows me to do the thing that I want to do. So why am I pushing still to get the validation from people, to get the okay that I am actually good enough? I already have all the things that I wanted to have, which is the capability.
And it's how I fed them. I empowered them. That's my message for today. I hope it offers you some relief. And that information was when I finally soaked that into my core, it offered me so much relief. And I'm grateful, so very grateful every day that pure obsession, massive rumination, all these things aren't a crippling, normal part of my day. We've got a lot to work on. We've got a lot to deal with in life, a lot to think about. And this is one thing that you could do without. It could.
And there's a little bit more, but we're going to end it there. That was a good video. It's interesting to think about this kind of stuff, and I sort of watch this just because I know that there's people out there who just don't believe that this stuff is real, but it is. You don't have to let them rain on your parade. This isn't getting into a room with gongs and going oh and trying to cure your inner child and primal scream therapy and oh. This isn't that. This is knowledge of what your brain is doing so that you can have the tools that you need to exist in your day-to-day life. And some people don't need those tools, just like some people don't need auto-tune, and some people don't need a miter saw, and some people don't need an old school typewriter to write a good book. But some people do, and for those people, the tools are there, and I think that's a good thing.